Back again here on Warchant TV, Ben Spicer and Michael Langston. Last time you saw us, we were talking about a little offense on the recruiting side for Florida State. Now we're talking about the defensive side of the ball, where there's not as many top-tier prospects in terms of 5 stars as on the offensive side, but there's still some big players and big guys that you want to hear from and hear about. And so Michael's got you covered with that. And we're going to start with the FSU commit, and that's defensive lineman Javion Hilson, who's taken some trips to Texas and other schools of late, still committed to Florida State. How are you feeling when it comes to Javion?
Yeah, I think I guess I'm in the minority where I wasn't like in panic mode when all these visits were happening when he was going to Texas, went to UCF. Yeah, I think Texas, both UCF are probably the teams, I guess, if you would say biggest competition. But I wasn't in the, I guess, worry room. I don't know what you call that. Just because I'd heard from people just around him that this is what he wanted to do and going through the process, and there wasn't anything alarming of what the wording they would tell me about anything going on. And then from the FSU side, I didn't get a feel of panic of like, hey, we're worried, we got to get him back over here. And I think too, another positive is when he showed up at FSU's big man camp, came over there. I didn't catch up with him. We're still working on that, but I guess we'll get that this weekend when he's here. But um, the fact that he showed up, worked with JP, also worked with Florida commit defensive lineman Jalen Wiggins, who's ironically you're visiting this weekend as well for the official visit. But I think once he was there and you saw a lot of proactiveness on social media where he's like, where to be and all that stuff. I think it says a lot about how strong he feels in his commitment. Now, never say never, but I feel good that he's going to stick with FSU. Now, certainly this visit, there's certainly keys for everybody, and with Hillison just being around the players again, because I say this a lot because a lot of times on these unofficial visits, these kids don't get to spend a lot of time with the players. They're either the players aren't around and they're gone home, or maybe a break or something, or they're doing more stuff around football and showing the facilities off, or they're just interacting with the coaches where you don't want to develop that relationship, or they're showing them stuff. But so a lot of times there's not a lot of in-depth talks with these players. There's sometimes occasionally where they'll hang with them for a few hours, but when you get on these official visits, you get a lot of serious talk. You get a lot of player panels where these guys can ask them anything, whatever's on their mind, whether it's girls, whether it's football, whether it's whatever's on their mind. And they can just see how they connect with them and bond and kind of where the message is compared to when they talk to other places. I can guarantee you this. I bet you FSU is probably the most straightforward kids that they have as far as knowing Norvell and the way he runs his ship compared to any other school. Like when those players tell him stuff, I guarantee you they're telling them. And Mike Norvell, I even heard him outside one time. He's like, I want you recruits to talk to the players. He's basically egging them to talk to them because he wants them to see, like, they're going to tell you the good and bad, not
Yeah.
just the good, not just the Aladdin fantasy red carpet treatment. It's going to be, hey, this is the bad stuff. This is the good stuff. This is what we have to do every day. Here's the kind of daily routine. So I think Mike's really big on that. I think that's one of the first things Mike told me when he got the job, when we had our media luncheon one week. He was like, I don't want them to be any surprises. I want them to know exactly this is how it is all the time. And so no matter what recruit it is, I think that's one of the biggest things that they want to do each week. And I think with this weekend with Hillison, I think that's going to be, to me, the thing that just kind of finishes it off. If there's a connection with the players, and like I expect, I think you could see him come out there and say, "Yeah, guys, I'm good."
Javion is the only defensive commit that will be
Yeah.
visiting this weekend. You've got 5-star offensive lineman Solomon Thomas and 4-star quarterback Termel Jones that
Hmm.
will be visiting on the offensive side of the ball. But we've already talked about that. There's 3 other 4-star defensive linemen that will be on campus with Javion this weekend. You just mentioned one of those, Florida
Yeah.
commit Jalen Wiggins, but you've also got Myron Charles and Kevin Wynn, and those two or including Wiggins as well, are three guys that Florida State right there on. How are you feeling going into this visit weekend with those three?
Yeah, I would start. I'd say I feel really good about Myron. I think they're in a great spot. I still feel that way, even though he has taken, some visits. But um, I'll put that out first. Secondly, this is a massive weekend for FSU defensive tackle recruiting, because one, you have the guy that you've led for most of the way in Myron Charles, and now you also have the guy that you've been the longest on in Kevin Wynn, who's really liked FSU. He's been to, like, man, I think he's been like 3 or 4 games. He's been to FSU a lot. He's seen the campus a lot, but then Georgia picked up the pace. So Georgia's, certainly making a strong push, and certainly FSU has to finish the job, and it's going to be, it's a battle, to finish that. Now, I do feel good about Charles, but would win. I think they're going to show something unique like they usually do with the program, whether it be culture, whether it be just specific things of how they're going to use him under Odell. As good as Georgia is, and Georgia, you're awesome, guys, but when you have somebody like Odell that develops the way that he does, that's definitely difficult to beat. But also that SEC prestige and excitement. The fact that Georgia's been one of the most consistent teams the last 5 or 6 years, I think that's certainly a big draw. So FSU will need to nail it. As far as the things they're looking for, and I think Keys is just another one that will be surrounding around the players, and also just like I said, doing something unique that maybe he didn't see at Georgia that he kind of experienced at FSU. That's maybe more personal than not just football related, because we all know Kevin's a great player. I think I know Georgia knows he is. I know FSU knows he is. I know there's a lot of schools do. So I think when you show them stuff that's something unique of outside of football, that seems to capture a kid recruit's attention more than it does just the football aspects. I think most kids know kind of what the program is, and what they're going into, and the type of talent and the type of development they're going to get. So I think a lot of times you see a lot of personal stuff that really moves the needle. So I think with Kevin, they can do that this weekend. Certainly be a big lift. But I cannot put in enough emphasis that out of all the positions, defensive tackle, this is the biggest weekend. They really need to nail this, and certainly get, at the very least, a commitment. Doesn't have to be publicly right now, just a commitment out of this weekend, out of those two. I think certainly two would be phenomenal for them, put them in a really good spot. But overall, I think there needs to be some movement there, because that's a position that I feel like they could do a little better at. It'd be a little more excitement, get a little more surge of more high school guys. We know what they do in the portal; they kill it. Odell kills it when they develop there, but you need to see more out of the high school ranks, where this is a big weekend, a pivotal one for them to really solidify their position. Because if they get both of those guys, that really solidifies kind of their defensive tackle position. Now you can add one more, but you don't feel like, hey, you have to rush or look around. You could still go after guys like 5-star Justice Terry, and just different guys that, who, by the way, decommitted recently. So there's certain guys you don't feel like there's a pressure to get in there. So I think out of all the positions, this is a vital weekend for the defensive tackle position. Odo Higgins, obviously, need to nail it this weekend. But then you have the defensive end position, Jalen Wiggins. That's the more intriguing. That's one of the most intriguing official visitors for me, because one is a local kid, and then two, it's just he's been at FSU a lot, probably even more than even Florida, the school he's committed to. And then you listen to him talk, and I know you guys interviewed him, Ben. He doesn't sound like a guy that's just like ready to just, hey, I'm done, I'm crossing it off. It didn't sound like that when you're around him. So I think there's an opportunity. I think FSU has certainly knocked off a lot of that. You know, just making a move on him, as far as him, and really close that gap a lot. I think there's still work to do. I don't think it's the finished product, but you can see the message personally is starting to resonate with Jalen and FSU.
A pair of four-star linebackers will also be on campus. You've got Tavion Wallace, who it feels like FSU's sitting pretty with, but
Yeah.
then you've also got an intriguing one to me in four-star linebacker Gavin Nix. So tell us a little bit about the linebackers. It feels like it could be a pivotal weekend for linebacker recruiting as well, and I know that's something the fans want to hear.
Yeah, obviously, early in the week and the midweek, they hosted Zay Rainey Sale, host them in a midweek visit. That everything I heard was very positive. Certainly, Washington's been the team that we hear, but they accomplished what they wanted to out of that visit. But this weekend, even bigger, you have your top target, who I think's their top target, and Tavion Wallace. I still feel good about their position. I think Florida has closed that gap, kind of similar to the way FSU kind of closed the gap on, Jalen Wiggins. But so I do think there's things to do, to finish it off. But um, I think they should feel good about their position with Tavion. And then Gavin's a really interesting one because there's times where you've seen him visit different schools and you're like, okay, he might be leaving there. He's like me leaving there. Miami's been the team that I've heard the most about, and that was the one that I've been told like that was the biggest threat, and it's been that way probably since I want to say February when I talked to people around him, they would tell me like Miami. So I think Miami's really big on there, but I think FSU is too, and I think the big thing with him is one development, production, but also stability. He's the only recruit I can remember in the last 2, 3 years that actually mentioned stability. When we interviewed him after a visit. So I think the stability of FSU is a massive draw to him. There's something he's excited about now. With Miami, they probably use more linebackers in different ways than FSU. Sometimes FSU only uses two, so there's not a lot of depth of how much they use them all over the different places. But I think when they use them, certainly their linebackers are very versatile. Randy Shannon's done a great job of developing that position, both with Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach, and even Lundy. When he's there, and then now he's back. So I think really the development is certainly FSU has certainly impressed him a lot. But I think right now going to visit, I would say they're trailing Miami. I just feel like Miami is the team that I've heard more about than them. But it's a big opportunity. It's just like defensive tackle. It's a big opportunity to really surge your way to the top and get him around just the daily aspects of what it is to be a Knoll when you're around these players. See what it's like. See what they go through, and see if that he get that tingle or that feeling about FSU that's maybe a different or unique than Miami. FSU's more of a smaller city than Miami. We'll have to see if that resonates more with Gavin than say a big city. Some kids like big cities. Some kids like medium-sized town. So I think there's a lot of dynamics that we have to see play out. And as I said, can't put it enough emphasis on the fact that FSU's getting all these top guys, over 20, official visitors for the last weekend summer. To get them for the last visit, I think is just vital.
Closing things out, we have three players in the secondary: four-star defensive back Gregory Thomas, three-star defensive back Shamar Arnaud, and then
hmm
three-star defensive back Jet White as well. What's the feeling when you look at those players in the secondary? I know those are a couple names that we felt like FSU was certainly a leader in throughout the
Yeah.
spring heading into the summer, right?
Yeah, definitely, Gregory. I still feel extremely good about that one. That's probably the one I feel the best about out of anybody. He's got part Indian heritage in him. He's always loved FSU. His former coaches at FSU. There's a connection just when he's there. It's different. Everything around the people around him feel like FSU is in a really strong position. I think this weekend's just finishing it off, and it really before I get to the others, just I think people should understand like there's a detailed plan for every single. We talk about how large these guys are, and I don't even know how we're going to cover it. We're definitely going to try to get Ben Spicer out there and help us out, if we can this weekend. But there's a specific plan for each individual guy. I'm not talking about a plan for like a day each day because it's a 40-hour visit. I'm talking about each hour, minute, whatever they're doing. There's a plan for what personality is going to connect, what moment is going to connect, what pitch is going to connect, what thing do they need to do that really resonates with him. And so I think that's the one intriguing parts. And then two, just just finishing it off. And so far, FSU has done a phenomenal job with these official visits, and certainly having commits. I think on both sides is a big thing. Even though it's only one guy in Javion Hilson, it's just a big deal. To have multiple guys there that are committed to your program that can kind of kick them into kind of ace recruiter and getting out there and wanting to do more once they're back around the coaches. And you could see that. But I feel good about Gregory Thomas. I think the new one in that group is certainly Arnott's, Shamaro Knott. So we saw him, I think, at the elite camp, was very good, really stood out, and immediately set up this official visit. So you're really starting to feel like the momentum is building for this one, because their corner board isn't really thick. It's not like loaded to the bronx. So that's a guy to kind of watch. He hasn't really give a timeline on the decision. So I think you have to like kind of how it's building and trending, lately, for Shamar. And then you have Jet White, who visited in the spring, had really high views of FSU. For me, I just want to see what the push is going to be like. What's your push going to be like? Because you have a lot of targets that are out there that FSU is still involved with that are top notch, that are probably higher on the board than even a Jet White. So are you so sold that, hey, you're going to, for sure take him? Or, what's your pursuit going to be like? So that's kind of the thing I'm looking for. He's committed to Maryland. You want to see kind of what priority is, and two, just the engagement of these official visits. I know everyone thinks like these kids go on the official visits, they're wine and dine, and they're active, and they're all just like, sometimes you have kids there that the engagement is not as strong as you'd hoped it'd be. So that's what I kind of want to sense and see what I hear, as far as about the engagement of how engaged these kids are. Even kids that aren't committed to their school, especially them, because that's the ones where, okay, they're looking to learn more. So I think it's going to be a fun weekend. I've said this before as we close it out. I feel like they're going to get probably 8 to 10 for the summer. I think that's a fair number when you consider all the guys that they seem to be in a good position for. Could be a little lower than that, but I think overall it's going to be a busy summer. Certainly going to be a busy June 20, probably third weekend, when we get up with these guys. But I think there's a really big opportunity to make a lot of waves for FSU this weekend, because they do need some momentum. I mean, they haven't had a commit in a while.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for them to, at the very least, I think, get a public commitment like either the day they're leaving or maybe a day after or so. I think it's important just to have one where I think there's going to be a lot of juice and excitement. I'm very sure I'll hear some positive stuff. I know when Steve Wilfong from On Three gets up with them as well, there'll be a lot of positive, stuff coming out of this weekend. But there's a very big opportunity to send some waves and shock waves to the nation of FSU, adding some top guys, because right now they have four. And if you get what I think they're anticipating getting, you could be up to like 12 or 13 or maybe even 14.
Make sure you stay tuned here to Warchant TV and head over to warchant.com, the premium recruiting boards. That's where Michael and Matt will have all the latest. We'll try and get as many interviews as we can. It's a big visit list this weekend, guys, but I know I'll be out there helping you guys out. So stay tuned here on Warchant TV. Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And for the latest FSU recruiting news, Michael, Ben, Matt, and everyone has you covered right here at warchant.com. Until next time, guys, we'll see you later. Thanks for watching.